Today I want to show you how to install Visual Studio Code on a Windows machine and also talk a bit about why you want to do that. Here are the main features that it try to highlight. So it has IntelliSense, it has Run and Debug, it has built-in Git and extension. It says Meet IntelliSense, go beyond syntax highlighting and autocomplete with IntelliSense. So what it means is when you're typing the code, as you see the blue bar here, a box will pop up and give you hints, and it would not only highlight, it would autocomplete and give you maybe suggestions. And that's really helpful, and it really saves time if you start to code more, because a lot of time you may not remember syntax, and the IntelliSense will save you a lot of time, make coding more enjoyable. And then also print statements debugging is a thing of the past. What that means is that you can now debug. So by debugging, you see this little bug here. Debugging just means to step through your code so that you know what is happening. And it's extremely important and critical, especially if your code is not running. If your program has an issue and you need to troubleshoot, it's very important that you have a great tool that can help you debug. And next one is the Git commands built in. Review diffs, the difference in your files, and stage files and make commits. And these are stage files and make commit. These are Git specific words. But just know that Visual Studio Code has Git support. And here, the Visual Studio Code also provides extensions for you to easily add new feature. You can add Python, you can add C++, you can add many other, like including Java. You can add extensions for web development. The last one is not as applicable. It's deploy with confidence and ease, because not everyone will be deploying to the Microsoft Azure, which is the Microsoft Cloud solutions, right? A lot of time you, as a student, or as an engineer, you may just be developing for your local machine, but as an engineer, your company may be using other cloud solutions, not necessarily Microsoft Azure. But if so, Visual Studio Code has good support. I will follow the installation steps and first download the Visual Studio Code installer. And it's going to start downloading. It's going to pop up and should be downloading. And you might see this depends on what machines you are on. I'm on a Windows server. So here it says this user installer is not meant to be run as administrator. If you would like to install Visual Studio Code for all users in this system, download the system installer instead. Since I'm the only user on this machine, I'm just gonna stick with this user. Right here is user setup. So this is a user installation package, not a system installation package. System means that once you install a system installer, all the users on this machine will be able to use Visual Studio Code. I don't need that, so I'm gonna click OK, and it's going to present me with the default installation flow. So here I accept. And I can create a desktop. So I'll leave whatever is selected and then click install. The installation is pretty painless, and it should finish momentarily. The installation has complete, and I'm going to click on finish, and the Visual Studio Code will pop up and show you the theme selection. So you can select which theme. I kind of like the dark high contrast, so I'm going to select that. So you see how it turned into the dark high contrast. You can look around and try light, or yeah, I think light is too hard on my eyes. So actually dark looks good. So I'm going to stick with dark. All right. And then next would be I'll sync to and from other device. So I don't need to do that. And one shortcut. So you can go through this and see if you want to set up any of these. I am going to leave all the other unconfigured and just mark done. I'm going to walk you through setting up Python in VS Code. Let's do so by following this documentation. Go to Visual Studio Code Docs and go to Python and click on Tutorial. In this document, it tells us to install Python 3, VS Code application, and also VS Code Python extension. First, we will install VS Code, which we have done. Next, we will install the Python extension for VS Code. To do that, you can open your VS Code and click on the extension icon. At the search bar, type Python. And then you can select the Python extension and just click on install. It should just take a few moments. And as it's installing, I'm gonna scroll down to the next step, and while waiting for it to finish, let's take the next step. The next step is to install a Python interpreter. Python interpreter is a program that understands Python code and can execute it. The current Python interpreter version is 3, so let's install that by going to this link, click on Python, and download Python 3.11.2. You may have seen Python 2 in some other applications, but the recommended version to use now is Python 3. My machine is a Windows 64 bits machine, and so this would typically work for most Windows machines if your machine is the modern 64 bits. But it's already finished downloading. I'm going to open this file. I'm going to follow the instructions by install now. The Python interpreter installation has completed. That's closed. And next, we will go back to the previous documents and take the next step. So next step is to verify the Python installation. We can open a terminal by go to Start, and here just type terminal. You can then follow the document, just type py-3-version is going to print out Python 3.11.2, the version that we have just installed. To the next step. Next step is to start VS Code in a workspace folder. To do that, since we are on Windows, we'll create a folder. Let's create a folder called Python-lessons to be the workspace folder. Then go back to Visual Studio Code, click on Explorer, and then click on Open Folder. Find the folder that you've just created. This is the folder that I have just created to be the workspace. Workspace is a project folder in the VS Code terminology. So here I can select folder. It's going to use that folder as a workspace folder. And then once it's open, you can add file in that folder. Right click and say new file, and you can say test.py, and then we can type in just a simple Python code. Let's do print, and you can see that it's giving you the hint, and it's also giving you squiggly line here because that's a typo. It's print, and I'm going to just give a simple print hello world, and I'm going to execute this. Click on this little triangle. You can click on run Python file, and it will run the Python file and print hello world. Let's try to add a couple more print statements. First, you added a flip a coin, and then you add another statement. It's a head, and then you put a breakpoint. To put a breakpoint, you can click on the left side of a line, and you can also see these are the line number 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say I want to put a breakpoint here. I click, and you can see the red line. Click on the drop down and select Debug Python file. And then you might see an error that says invalid Python interpreter is selected. Please try changing it. Click on select Python interpreter, and then you see that there's one that's recommended. Just select that. That was the one we installed previously. We can now try to debug again. If you select debug, it's going to print hello world, and then it's going to, instead of printing flip a coin, see how it prints hello world, but it paused right here. To have it continue, you can hit this triangle. It says continue, or you can hit F5, It will continue, meaning it will continue to run to the end of the program. This is a very small program with just 3 statements. Each of this line is a Python statement. And then a statement has a operator or a method. Print is a method, and you can pass in the method parameter. You can type message equal hello. That's a variable, and by default it's set to a string type. Then you can print the message. If we put a breakpoint here and then run again, it will expectedly stop right here because we still have this breakpoint. We click continue, it's going to stop at the next breakpoint. If you put your cursor over message, you will see that it has a value called hello. When you break at a breakpoints, you can see the state of your program. You can see the variables names. You can have your program pause at a certain point. We can let it go forward and finish the program. So it says hello. Next, let's do something more interesting by install and use a very common package. So here I'm still following the VS Code documentation. So here it says we can install pypi. And what we could do is we could import this library to draw plot. Before we do that though, we would need to create a new virtual environment. To create a virtual environment, let's do Control, Shift, and P on your Windows to open the command prompt. Then typed Python. Find the create virtual environment. And here it says, well, actually it's just create environment. And then there are 2 options. One is to vimp, the other one is conda. You can use either, but in this tutorial I'm going to use vimp. Select vimp, and it's asking you which interpreter to use. Select Python 3.11.2 interpreter. It will take some time to create the environment, and when it's creating the environment, you can see that it's added a folder in our Python-lesson project. It's called .venv. It's called .venv. env stands for environment, and in the directory or folder you can see include lib stands for library, scripts, and .git ignore, and this is used for later for Git. So it added a whole bunch folder for it to keep track of the configuration for this virtual environment. Once the virtual environment is created, we can add a new console. To add a new console, you can click on this plus icon. You can say PowerShell. If the environment is created correctly, as you should see it would open the shell that looks like this. And here you can then type in your command to install the Python module. Let's follow the instruction. So next, let's install the libraries we need by following step 3. Install the package. Since we are on Windows, we can type python-m pip. So let me make sure I'm typing the correct command on Windows. Pip python-m pip install matplotlib. Hit enter, and it's starting to gather the libraries and install it under this virtual environment. It's gonna take a few moments. The installation is complete. Next we can try the code to draw the plot. Let's go up and find that piece of code Microsoft has given us. Alright, this is the this is the code, and so what we could do is just do, I'm going to copy and paste and just paste it in here. Run Python file. If it's running correctly, it should pop up a plot. There you go. So this is generated by this module, and there you go. This is how you can import a module and then use it in your program. If you like this video, please hit subscribe and like.